We would now like to start the Mayors for Peace Youth Webinar for Peace section. The facilitator for today's program is Ms. Keiko Nakamura, Associate Professor of Nagasaki University Research Center for Nuclear Weapons Operation. The floor is yours, Ms. Nakamura.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Keiko Nakamura from the Research Center for Nuclear Weapons Abolition, Nagasaki University, RACNA for short. I will be the facilitator for today's webinar. Your cooperation will be appreciated so that the webinar will be a fruitful one. Thank you very much. So now all our speakers have appeared on the screen. Everyone will take turns giving presentations during the 19 minutes webinar. To open the webinar, Mr. Kazumi Matsui, President of the Mayor for Peace and Mayor of Hiroshima, will offer a few words of welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matsui Kazumi, President of Mayors for Peace and Mayor of Hiroshima. I would like to thank you all for joining this webinar on Zoom and YouTube from around the world today. In July, Mayors for Peace adopted a new vision called the Vision for Peaceful Transformation to a Sustainable World and its 2025 Action Plan. We set forth the third objectives: promote a culture of peace to establish a concrete base for realize a world without nuclear weapons and realize safe and resilient cities. Under this vision, Mayors for Peace works to promote a culture of peace to take roots in civil society in which the everyday action of each member of the public are grounded in thinking about peace, and to gather public support for a peaceful world without nuclear weapons. Through these initiatives, we urge the policymakers to effect peace-oriented policy change, which we believe is our imperative to realize the abolition of nuclear weapons and everlasting world peace. As a major part of our objective, which is to promote a culture of peace, we hope this webinar will help spread awareness about peace to a younger generation. Young activists from 8 countries around the world will be present to describe and answer questions about their peace activities. It is my hope that by hearing their presentations, those in virtual attendance will start to ask themselves what they can do for peace building in their daily lives to cause policy change as well. In closing, it is my desire that through this webinar, you are able to make long-lasting connection that will help with future activities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, President Matsui. We would now like to share the message from Ms. Izumi Nakamitsu, United Nations Under Secretary General and High Representative for Disarmament Affairs. Mr. Takashi Koizumi, Secretary General of Mayor for Peace, will read out the message. Mr. Koizumi, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Professor Nakamura. It is my pleasure to send greetings to the Mayor for Peace Youth Webinar for Peace Action. The purpose of today's webinar, raising peace consciousness through peace education is most worthwhile endeavor. Since 2002, the countries of the world have acted through the General Assembly on 10 occasions to recognize the United Nations study on disarmament and non-proliferation education. The study included the important finding that events like today's webinar can offer a crucial building block, knowledge empowering you to decide how you want to apply the values of peace in your own life. Young people have answered this challenge in many ways before. In his 2018 disarmament agenda, the UN Secretary General noted that young activists had worked at the forefront of successful international campaigns to ban landmines, cluster munitions, and nuclear weapons. So you can learn today. I encourage each of you to imagine what a peaceful future looks like to you and how you can help bring your vision into the world. Two young representatives of the UN's Youth for Disarmament initiative are joining you today to share their own experience with this exploration. I thank you and wish you all a successful and productive discussion. Izumi Nakamitsu, High Representative, the Disarmament Affairs. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Koizumi. The message was offered by Ms. Izumi Nakamitsu, United Nations Under-Secretary General and High Representative for Disarmament Affairs. Thank you. So before moving on, let me explain today's outline and some instructions for the Q&A. So during this webinar, 13 young activists representing 9 peace organizations based on 8 countries around the world will give the presentation about their peace activities and have discussions. I hope this webinar will provide presenters, the participant on Zoom, and the audience of the live stream on YouTube with an opportunity to think about the youth-led peace activities. So next, I will explain how to ask questions. While we have live stream viewers on YouTube today, please kindly understand that we can only take questions from the audience on Zoom. Those who participate from Zoom, if you have any questions, please type them in the chat box at the bottom of your screen during the presentations. Make sure to specify who you would like to ask questions to. For smooth operations, I will read out these questions after all the presentations and have a presenter answer them. Now, let's get started. So the first speaker is Mr. Yuto Nakamura. A youth peace volunteer will give the first presentation. Yuto, whenever you're ready, please start.
Thank you very much. I would like to start the presentation. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Yuto Nakamura, one of the newer members of the Youth Peace Volunteer. Today, I'm going to present what this volunteer is all about. Next slide, please. For the outline of this presentation, I will have 3 main points. That would be what Youth Peace Volunteer is, what we did last year, and finally, I will present our future plan. Next slide, please. First, let me read our mission statement. As the youth carrying the next generation, our mission is to convey Hiroshima's message of peace to the non-Japanese visiting the Peace Memorial Park. Let me explain what we are in details as we look at our mission. Next slide, please. First of all, this volunteer activity is carried out by the youth in Hiroshima who are high school and university students. This is our third year as a group conducting volunteer activities. This year, we have 26 high school students and 23 university students with a total of 49 youth peace volunteers. Next slide, please. Our main activity is being an English tour guide for international tourists. Next slide, please. Through the guide, we hope that we can convey Hiroshima's message of peace, which calls for abolition of nuclear weapons and desire for universal peace. We also believe that we are carrying the hopes of the Hibakusha's survivors so that no one will experience the tragedy of 1945 ever again. Next slide, please. Let me now introduce what we did last year. We mainly had 3 activities. Next slide, please. The first one is training. Once the volunteers are selected, the training period starts. During our training period, some of the original members taught newer members how to give tours in English. We were taught by them that the most important thing is passion, not the language. These senior members also taught us some tips for being a tour guide in general. We also had an opportunity to listen to an airborne survivor's testimony in English. For some of us, it was the first time hearing a first-hand story of the bombing. Next slide, please. Let me introduce our second activity. We participated in the candlelit ceremony. This ceremony was held to rejoice ensuring the UN Treaty on the provision of nuclear weapons entry into force. We gave a short speech, both in English and in Japanese, to promise the continued peace activities to eliminate nuclear weapons from the world. Next slide, please. We also made a peace pack guide video because we could not guide tourists due to COVID-19. We made few groups to discuss how to guide the monuments virtually and try to output everything what we've learned through training. Next slide, please. Lastly, let me introduce our future plan. Last year, due to COVID-19, we could not guide international tourists. Next slide, please. However, we noticed social media can be another way to convey Hiroshima's message. Therefore, we are going to make a social media account which offers this information, starting from sharing the last year's videos and what we are doing every month. Next slide, please. Let me end by telling you one last thing. We are not just tour guide explaining the meaning and giving information of tourist spots. We are the youth carrying the message of hope and peace passed on from the survivors. We will bring the message of Hiroshima to the world by connecting with non-Japanese visitors. This is the bottom-up approach. We, the youth peace volunteers, are taking as advocates of peace. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Yuto. That was a really powerful presentation. Okay, next, Ms. Alejandra Munoz from PAX will give a talk. Alejandra, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And let me start off by thanking the Measures for Peace Secretariats for organizing this conference and of course, inviting me to participate. Yes, my name is Alejandra Munoz. I am a project officer at the organization called Pax for Peace, which is the largest peace organization in the Netherlands. We work on many different issues to promote peace, but in this presentation, I'd like to specifically focus on 2 topics I'm working on, which is nuclear weapons, which is a topic you all know very well, and the other one being military drones, which perhaps some of you may not know that well. Could you go to the next slide, please? So this is just to quickly show that our headquarters are in the Netherlands, but we do have a presence and support local partners in other regions of the world. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. So the program I'm working in is called Humanitarian Disarmament. It doesn't have a country-specific focus or a focus on a specific region, but rather deals with the topic, this general topic of disarmaments being, of course, internationally relevant and depending on a lot on multilateral cooperation. Of course, hoping that in the end that will positively influence the situation in individual countries. So here we, within this program, we encourage better regulation or even a full prohibition of certain weapons, which one of the two, of course, depending on the type of weapon. If you could go to the next slide, please. Yes, thank you. So that brings us to the first topic, which is nuclear weapons. Of course, here we have been advocating for a full ban. This is an issue that PAX has been working on for decades and is very much part of its identity. So the photo that's depicted here is from the 1983 demonstration in the Netherlands against nuclear weapons, which where PAX's predecessor organizations co-organized this demonstration, and to date has been the largest demonstration ever in the Netherlands. Next slide, please. So what do we do here? On the international level, we are part of the international campaign to abolish nuclear weapons, also known as ICAN. And within this context, we were also part of the negotiations that led to the adoption and entering into force of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which was, of course, a huge milestone. We also conduct and publish research on the private sector engagement in the nuclear weapon industry. And we engage in Dutch lobby and advocacy. The Netherlands is one of the European countries that has US nuclear weapons stored on its territory as part of NATO's nuclear sharing policy. So this is, of course, a main focus of our advocacy in the Netherlands. Our advocacy efforts also led to the Netherlands joining as the only NATO country the negotiations of the nuclear ban treaty. But unfortunately, this did not lead to them actually joining the treaty. So this also remains an important part of our advocacy efforts. Could you go to the next slide, please? So quickly moving on to another topic I work on. It's slightly newer, the topic of military drones. Next slide, please. You may know it or have learned about this topic mostly in the context of the US war on terror. And the lethal drone strikes emerging from this in places like Yemen, Somalia, and Pakistan, which initiated around 2002, referred to often as targeted killings. We see them as extrajudicial killings, often taking place in situations where there was no armed conflict and leading to high numbers of civilian deaths. That is still ongoing, not just by the United States, but we also see other countries using drones in this manner, so for these targeted killings. But on the other hand, we're also seeing a bit more recently another development where drones are being used more and more in actual conflict situations. So in proxy wars like in Iraq and Syria, and also in the renewed fighting over Nagorno-Karabakh, which we also saw last summer, drones were heavily used as well. And then on the other hand, we also see that non-state armed groups are using them more and more, because unlike nuclear weapons, drones are, or at least some drones, are very cheap, easy to assemble, and it's relatively easy for these armed groups to turn commercial drones into lethal weapons. So this is, of course, a very concerning development, and also it remains a challenge for expert control regimes. So next slide, please. So what do we do here? As PAX, we coordinate the European Forum on Armed Drones, which is a European civil society coalition consisting of organizations that work on armed drones. We engage in national and international advocacy, also using the reports that we publish. And just to wrap it up, because I think I'm limited on time, if you could go to the next slide. Oh, no, I think it's the last slide. So just to add that, unlike nuclear weapons, where we are advocating for a full ban, we have been advocating for a full ban, which eventually led to the nuclear ban treaty. With the drones topic, we rather advocate for better regulation of these weapons in line with human rights standards and humanitarian law standards. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Alejandra. That was a great presentation. And then I know 5 minutes is too short, and I would love to hear more from you. Okay, so the next presenter is Ms. Samaya Mazlan and Ms. Akida Lehman from the University of Malaya. Floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Ms. Keiko. All right, so, okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to ladies and gentlemen and members of the floor. Today, me, Sumaya, and Akida-san from the Hewa team representing University of Malaya will be sharing some of our activities, peace activities that we have done here in Malaysia. Next slide, please. For your information, Hewa Project is a student-led movement with an aim to spread nuclear awareness and culture of peace to the local students and the local communities here in Malaysia. In align with our theme, with our title of presentation today, which is spreading peace through pop culture, noticing that fashion and clothing are widespread in the global pop culture too, we decided to design our very own Hewa hoodies as part of our effort to promote peace around the campus. And besides that, when we decided to include animation screening as part of our projects, we knew we had to do something out of the box. This is because we are going to present a part of the history that is quite heavy for students to understand, especially when it includes atomic bombings and nuclear weapons. So that's when we took the initiative to collaborate with our dear friend to sketch and produce animation based on the book Furisode no Shoujo. Now, as you can see in the slide, that is 2:30 minutes into the video. Now, the flame represents the flame of peace in Hiroshima, while the small beam of light around the flame represents the future youth that will hopefully spread the peace and extinguish the flame. So the next presentation will be presented by Ms. Akida. Please.
Thank you, Sumaya. So now I will proceed the presentation. Next slide, please. Before that. Okay, so this is one of our online program. This program is a collaboration between our department, which is Department of East Asian, University of Malaya, with Peace Boat Hibakusha project online. So actually this is come up from a discussion between our team and Ankita, which is our friends that we know during Nagasaki conference. So this is a sharing session story between the Hibakusha and University Malaya students. And the participants come from our University Malaya students and another students from another university. So other than that, we also have activities such as folding paper crane with the students. And we got a very good feedback from the students, and they wish that we can make this kind of program because they never hear about the Hibakusha story before. So next slide, please. So this is our upcoming project, which is to translate Hibakusha story into our language, which is Bahasa. So this is one of our effort to make our society, which is Malaysian people, to understand well what is the update of the Hibakusha or the issue about the nuclear issue. And this will be our online content that we can spread through our social media, because we know that right now people are using their social media and spend most of their time with social media. So this is one of our approach to give some awareness to Malaysian about nuclear awareness and make they understand well about Hibakusha story through our own language. So that's all our project from Hewa Team, University Malaya. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Samaya and Akida. I always enjoy listening to you guys' presentation. Thank you very much. Okay, so the next presenter is a freelance journalist and a volunteer in Flanders Field Museum, Mr. Alexandro Yalamis. Mr. Yalamis?
Yaramis, yes.
Okay. So Alexandro, did I pronounce your name correct?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, all
No
right.
problem.
Sorry about that. Okay, floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm Alexander Aramis. I'm representing the In Flanders Fields Museum of Belgium. It's a museum that mainly focuses on the First World War, as Ypres, my home city and the city where I'm born and raised, was a very important spot and location during the First War, during the First World War, as the salient was through the city of Ypres. In the next slide, like Ms. Nakamura already told you, I'm a freelance journalist, and as you can't see on my face, I'm not totally Belgian, although I'm born and raised in this city. I have Assyrian roots. And I don't know if it's coincidence, but like I ended up in this city. I mean, my parents ended up in this city. I'm born here. And the history of this city is mainly about the First World War, and you will see that in the area as well. It's full of monuments. It's full of graveyards, and also the In Flanders Fields Museum, that is one of the most visited museums in Belgium. Also, my background, my family background, has a background in genocide, and so as already from a young age, deeply concerned about war and peace. And even though war is a terrible period of time where everybody loses, you also have little sprinkles of hope and little things of peace that come up. So mainly in the interest, you will see that coming back, like international politics, conflicts and war, but also like peace, because that's the other side of war. You also have some people doing very important work. Is it a human rights organization doing research and all the kind of work that's very important for the future, not to let it happen again. And also for me as a journalist, I think I also have the job to give a voice to the people that are unheard, so the issue can be solved. Because a journalist is not only writing an article or interviewing someone, it's also having an influence in making the world a better place for everybody. And for me, that means investigating world issues, being involved in a lot of stories that the main public doesn't know well, and give a voice to them, going to remote areas where not a lot of people are able to go, and so on. Like I said, I'm a volunteer at the In Flanders Fields Museum, so I don't completely represent them, as I'm not a member of them. I'm just a volunteer. So if we have a lot of international projects with the focus on youth, I'm part of it. But I'm also a volunteer at Sant'Egidio, a worldwide organization, and I'm part of the Antwerp section. In the next slide, can you go to the next slide? So in the next slide, you see some of my international projects as a freelance journalist, some articles I've written. Then left on top, you see when I went a few years ago to Israel and Palestine, and some other projects I've been doing. In the next slide, you see one of the international projects we have been doing with In Flanders Fields Museum. We went to a summer camp with a lot of youth from all over Europe. The focus was mainly on totalitarian regimes, and we visited also a lot of places from former Yugoslavia, with a lot of youth members and organizations from all over Europe, as they want to sit together. I don't know if it's very naive, but it's better to keep a good contact with all of these countries to not let this happen again in the future. And we have to be aware of that, and also focus on on the future. In the next slide, you see one of those visits. We went also to Poland. We visited maybe, for me, this symbol of the Second World War, and it's the concentration camps, as that maybe symbolizes how bad a human can do things to another human. For me, it was also the most sensitive part, most emotional part of the whole project, as we always have been listening and watching documentaries about it, but seeing it in real life gives you a total different experience, because you can start visualizing it, how it was, and for me it's terrible to even think about it. In the next slide, you can see my other piece of volunteer work at Sant'Egidio, and here in this slide you can see we've been to Calais in North France, a refugee camp of mostly Sudanese and Somalian people. With Sant'Egidio, we do a lot of volunteer work in different areas. One of these voluntary projects is collecting stuff, food and survival kits, and then we go per 2 months, we go to Calais, to these camps, and we even play with these people. Most of these people don't stay there for a long time because they want to go to the UK, as they get more chances as a refugee there. In the next slide, you can see also 2 pictures of that day. On the left side, you can see we are handing out stuff, mostly in a bag. In that bag was food, and then in the red boxes we have shoes and tents, as from time to time you have France police coming over and ripping off these tents, making sure that these people don't have tents. They are not recognized as well.
Alexandro, I'm sorry for the interruption, but your time is up, so please finish immediately. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm finished in 20 seconds, I think. And on the right side, you can see the terrible situations of these people, where they live and so on. And from time to time, they only carry on NGOs coming over with stuff so they can live for the next days. But that's it. I think there is no next slide anymore. Yeah, one of these projects was also with summer camp, evolved with people coming out of different quarters, problem quarters, as we say in Belgium. People with parents that have mental issues or not that much of money. And we try to give them a vacation or a big holiday. But that's it. Yeah, now I'm sure. I'm sorry for the time.
No, it's okay. Thank you very much, Alessandro. That was the beautiful photos, and your work is so important. Okay, so thank you very much. The next presenters are university students and the co-leaders of No Nukes Tokyo, Mr. Yuta Takahashi and Ms. Suzuka Nakamura, please.
Okay, hi everyone. Maybe good morning, good evening. I'm Suzuka Nakamura from No Nukes Tokyo, and together Yuta, the co-leader of No Nukes Tokyo, are here today. Could you say hi to everyone?
Hi everyone, nice to meet you.
Okay, so I am going to introduce about our activities today. First of all, thanks for having us here today, and thank you for everyone sharing your wonderful, passionate actions. I'm very glad and happy, and it's a big pleasure for me to have a connection with you today. So Yuta and I each of us are from Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And we've started our activities since we were junior or high school students. And after entering university in Tokyo and living in Tokyo, we realized the gap of the interest toward this nuclear issue between Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and outside of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was pretty big. So we decided to work based in Tokyo so that we could spread our voice much bigger. So that's, and we've launched a new organization named No Nukes Tokyo, as you can see in the slides here. This name of our organization, No Nukes Tokyo, stands for 3 meanings. Could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. First, no nukes, and second, no nukes, and third, no new. Like the pronunciation is pretty similar, but each of them has a different meaning. Based on this vision of our organization, we are doing several kinds of activities, like listening the stories of Hibakusha or having a class with students in school, or like lots of kind of activities. But today we do not have enough time to talk about all of those activities. So I'd like to introduce one of them. Could you go to the next slide? Thank you. The project we are doing, the name is Gin Watch in Japanese. In English, we could maybe say Parliamentarian Watch. This project, in this project, we are asking all Japanese members and prefectural governors and municipal assemblies whether if they agree or disagree with the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. We show their political positions through our website. If you have any chance, it would be lovely if you could visit our website, but still the website is only written in Japanese, so maybe some of you cannot read, but we would try our best to make our website more international as soon as possible. Anyway, so through this activity, we aim to stimulate the discussions around TPNW in Japan. Could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So asking all, like there's more than 700 members in Japan, but we ask all of them if they agree or disagree with the treaty. But now, like 28% of them answered we agree to the treaty. But we could also say that only 28% of them agree with it. And here, the rest of the almost 70% of them doesn't mean they deny this treaty, but they did not answer to it. So like here, I would like to say this is a big problem, that in this democracy, like we should have more conversation and communication with politicians and civilians, but they are still not answering our questions. So like this shows the low political interest among DOT members. Could you go to the next slide? Thank you. We also have, we also show the result of our research for prefectural governors and municipal assemblies as well. So you can see these graphs in our website, but having this project, we find out what we have to do. So we are now trying to have more conversation and communication with DOT members. So this is end of my presentation, but lastly, like I would like you to introduce our SNS accounts. Each of them are named No Nukes Tokyo. So if you could follow our account, we could show the newest information of our activity. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Suzuka. Thank you, Yuta. Actually, I know them since the time that they were like 15 years old or something. So I feel like a mom, some way, and then I'm really proud of them. Okay, so next we will listen to a presentation by Mr. Jack Moses, a university student who works at the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation. Jack. floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. So hi, everyone. My name is Jack Moses, and I'm going to talk about youth advocacy and the disarmament work that we've been doing in New York City at the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation and Reverse the Trend, Save Our People, Save Our Planet. And next slide, please. So what is the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation? The Nuclear Age Peace Foundation educates, advocates, proposes, and pursues denuclearizing actions with the intention of achieving a just and peaceful world free of nuclear weapons. NAF is a proud partner organization of the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, who won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2017. Next slide, please. Reverse the Trend is a youth-led initiative fiscally sponsored by the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation. It's dedicated towards amplifying the voices of young people, primarily coming from frontline communities who have been directly affected by nuclear weapons and climate change. Reverse the Trend is a community forum, a 28-part educational curriculum on the dangers of climate change and nuclear weapons, as well as intersecting social issues, and as a toolkit for youth activists. We have worked heavily with the Marshallese community in the Pacific. Benedict Kabua Madison, pictured on the slide, is the Youth, Climate, and Nuclear Issues Project Specialist of the Marshallese Educational Initiative and is an advisor to Reverse the Trend. Importantly, Reverse the Trend has been heavily involved in disarmament efforts in New York City. Next slide, please. So now I'll speak about New York City and nuclear weapons. Before the 1980s, New York City was surrounded by bases containing nuclear weapons. In total, 19 nuclear weapons bases surrounded the city, all armed with nuclear warheads. One of the largest was Fort Tilden, the picture on the right on the slide. You can still see even today remnants of these wartime structures of guns, artillery, and others. Although nuclear weapons in the Manhattan Project may seem like only past issues for New York City, this is clearly not the case. Next slide, please. The photo on this slide is of the Wolf Allport building, the most radioactive location in all of New York City. The Wolf Allport Chemical Corporation imported and supplied thorium and radium to the Atomic Energy Commission for the Manhattan Project. The New York Department of Design and Construction in 2009 discovered deep soil contamination, the offsite spread of radioactive materials, and the presence of thoron and radon gases. In 2012, the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry concluded that as a result of the radiological contamination at the site, workers at the auto body shop and pedestrians who frequently use the sidewalks at this location may have an elevated risk of cancer from exposure to ionizing. Essentially, because of an inability to clean up radioactive materials, individuals in New York City who live close by to the area will have a significant risk of developing cancer. Next slide, please. In the 1970s, the New York City Council considered a resolution to reapportion money for nuclear weapons to support necessary domestic programs, but the resolution ultimately never passed. We cannot allow them to make the same mistake they made 41 years ago, a lack of action resulting in further development of nuclear weapons. Next slide, please. But the City Council now has an apt chance to sever this connection between nuclear weapons and New York City. At Reverse the Trend in the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, much of our work is centered on garnering support for and passing 2 resolutions before the City Council. Resolution 0976 divests the pension funds of public sector employees from companies involved in the production of nuclear weapons, and INT 1621 reaffirms New York City as a nuclear weapons-free zone. Next slide, please. 2 weeks ago, various members from Reverse the Trend went to City Hall to petition council members to support these pieces of legislation. We've been in contact with council members, staffers, and the general public for support. With the supermajority of council members supporting and sponsoring legislation, our campaign has made serious progress to remove nuclear weapons from New York City. Next slide, please. But working with the City Council is far from the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation's only work. In the beginning of August, Reverse the Trend, Peace Boat US, and several other partners convened a peace festival to honor those who suffered through the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We featured speakers from ICANN, youth from Reverse the Trend and Peace Boat US, international diplomats, musicians, and Hibakusha. This event was part of our wider effort to educate the public on the dangers of nuclear weapons. Next slide, please. And finally, very recently, we held a Reverse the Trend times Japan exchange. At the core, the event served as a youth networking event between American, Japanese, and Marshallese youth. This event focused on how Japanese youth can join RTT Japan. If you are interested in joining RTT Japan or any of our other national chapters, I have included the emails and socials on the slide. So this has been a summary of the work of myself, the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, and Reverse the Trend in New York City. It's extremely important to me that a city as diverse and progressive as New York City works to abolish nuclear weapons, and that we can make true progress on international abolition efforts. And I understand that those of my generation, the youth around the world who will be hit hardest by climate change and nuclear weapons, must be involved in all of the activist work. Thank you for letting me speak.
Okay, thank you very much, Jack. A wonderful presentation, very informative and interesting. Okay, the next presenter is Ms. Sakar Monasser, who works with the New Zealand Red Cross as a youth activator. Sakar?
Kia ora koutou katoa, assalamu alaikum. My name is Fakhr, and I'll be talking to you about the work that we do with the New Zealand Red Cross on international humanitarian law, but also banning of nuclear weapons. The work that we've done that is mainly focused on banning nuclear weapons actually followed the visit that I had to Hiroshima 2 years ago with the Japanese Red Cross and Hiroshima City Council. And that was a trip that was eye-opening and just sobering in so many ways. So if we go to the next slide, I'll talk about some statistics and the work that we've been doing over the last 18 months. So over the last 18 months, the New Zealand Red Cross has engaged with over 1,000 young people across the country to ask them about their needs, wants, and the work that we can do as New Zealand Red Cross to engage with them better. And one of the questions that we asked was for young people in the Red Cross movement perspectives are people who are 30 years or under, just for perspective. We'd ask them to rank humanitarian issues that they're interested in working on from the most important to the least important. And as you can see, the rules of war and proliferation of nuclear weapons were in the bottom three. The Red Cross movement internationally works a lot on international humanitarian law and advocacy. And for those who know New Zealand, we're very far removed, very peaceful country. So to get young people interested in having these conversations, and a lot of them are not conversations that are easy to have, it's been a challenging topic. So what we've done is we've made sure to include international humanitarian law as a very crucial concept of our youth engagement strategy, which means that all the work that the New Zealand Red Cross will be doing over the next 10 years will heavily focus on youth engagement, but most importantly, international humanitarian law. And that will include banning of nuclear weapons and a lot of other activities that can relate to international humanitarian law, obviously, and human rights. So if you go to the next slide, please. So during COVID last year, we thought of an idea of creating an online series that is called Welcome to My World. And the point of it was to connect people in New Zealand, Aotearoa, to people internationally around international issues that then we can relate with COVID-19. And it was mainly because a lot of people, especially when lockdown was happening in New Zealand, felt trapped in their homes, felt that food was scarce, which allowed us to link a lot of the humanitarian issues that have been happening internationally to this scenario that they can somehow relate to. So some of the conversations we talked about were gender, war, and peace, humanitarian issues on autonomous weapons. Next slide, please. You will see we talked about the risks of nuclear weapons and why does a nuclear ban treaty matter, and that was on the day that the nuclear ban treaty, I think, passed. One of them was. And the main point of this is to have really deep and meaningful conversations, but in a casual and informal way, which means that we simplify the language, we simplify the concepts so that young people can actually engage in asking questions and knowing what is happening around the world in terms of peace treaties, what are the impacts of them, and link them to Aotearoa New Zealand. So why does a young person who's 15 to 16-year-old in New Zealand should care about a nuclear ban treaty and how the impacts of that can actually affect them in New Zealand? In addition to this and the online series, we've also been invited to the New Zealand Parliament twice now, one for the event on the Geneva Conventions, and that's what we talked about, the Geneva Conventions and New Zealand Parliament, and we invited a lot of young people to it. and most recently to an event that Alejandra, I think, might relate to, which is to ban killer robots, so autonomous weapons and AI, and the impacts of that on human decisions and taking that away, and how that could affect human rights and have an impact on war. To sum it up and to keep this sweet and short, there's a lot that we do, and international humanitarian law is one aspect of it, but we're seeing an increase in interest from young people especially. And I think COVID has been a curse and a blessing in a way, because it allowed us to create that link with the international community, and it allowed us to connect with young people more. And I feel like with our new strategy, which is focused on a 10-year plan, we'll be able to reach more young people in New Zealand and educate them more on these topics. But also having conversations like these with all of you and hearing all the work that you do will allow us to also then connect with you in the future and bring your perspectives to New Zealand, which I think is really important. Finally, and I think the next slide is my thank you slide. Just want to thank you all, and especially the mayors.
Tucker, I'm sorry, your time is up, so please make it really, really short. Thank you.
All good. These are the topics that we've talked about. Big thanks to the mayors of Peace for organizing this, and really enjoyed hearing all the presentations before, and looking forward to the next presentations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Tucker. Yeah, that was a really interesting presentation, especially the survey findings. I love to hear more about that. Great. Okay, our second to the last presenters, Ms. Mary-Kate Monahan and Ms. Isa Bergman from the UN Youth for Disarmament. Mary-Kate and Isa. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I'm Mary-Kate Monahan. I am the Youth Outreach Consultant working with the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs #Youth for Disarmament Initiative, and I'm joined by Isa Bergman, one of the UN Youth Champions for Disarmament. First, we want to thank today's organisers, the Mayors for Peace Secretariat, for inviting us to speak with you all here today, and I also want to congratulate all the speakers here today for their insightful and passionate presentations. It's an honour to be in your company and working together in our wider community. With that, I would like to introduce you all to the #Youth for Disarmament Initiative. Next slide, please. #Youth for Disarmament was established in 2019 by the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs with the intention to engage, educate, and empower young people from around the world to facilitate their contributions to disarmament efforts, and I'm excited to highlight some of these activities with you all here today. Next slide, please. Now, the 3 E's, engage, educate, and empower, form the key principles of the #Youth for Disarmament Initiative, which inspire and guide our activities and projects. By engage, we aim to facilitate opportunities for young people of all interests, expertise, and backgrounds to participate in and contribute to disarmament efforts. Our latest project is the #Step Up for Disarmament Youth campaign, and this invites young people to use their sporting passion and abilities to raise awareness and commemorate the International Day Against Nuclear Tests, which is this Sunday, the 29th of August. To do so, we invite youth from around the world to complete the distance of 8.29 kilometres, and I'd like to extend that invite to all of you who are joining us here today. The Youth for Disarmament Initiative also aims to educate youth on disarmament issues through providing a variety of helpful resources and educational opportunities. These include workshops and the Disarmament Education Dashboard, which has a selection of online courses, and I invite you all to have a look at our selection as well. To empower, we strive to engage and ensure young people the freedom and space to act on their innovation, imagination, and creativity, whilst also providing the essential support and resources to turn such ideas into a reality. One example is the UN Youth Champions for Disarmament training program, where 10 youth champions have received training in general principles of disarmament, non-proliferation, and arms control. The UN Youth Champions are currently developing their own projects to engage their local communities within these issues. I'm now honoured to welcome Isa to provide further information on the UN Youth Champions for Disarmament programme, and also to highlight her own project to engage young people in her local community. Isa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mary-Kate. So as Mary-Kate said, I am one of the 10 UN Youth Champions for Disarmament, and all of us have done or are doing an individual project this summer. I will very briefly introduce my own project here, which took place at the end of July. The project was called DIY for Disarmament, or at least that was its English title, and it consisted of 3 individual creative peace education workshops for children. The participants were between 9 and 13 and were all local to my hometown Hanover in Germany. I was very lucky to be able to partner for this project with the association Friendship Circle Hanover Hiroshima, which exists since 1985 and actually grew out of the city partnership between Hanover and Hiroshima. We were able to offer 3 DIY activities on the premises of the Friendship Circle Association: making origami doves and cranes, which you can see here on the left-hand side, then making bracelets and charms out of shrink wrap foil, and learning to write words like peace in Japanese. And next slide, please. Yeah, here you can see what I just described in the photos. It was very fortunate that 2 members of the Friendship Circle were able to lead the origami and the Japanese calligraphy activities, and I led the activity with shrink wrap foil. The aim was to make symbols for peace and simultaneously educate the children in an age-appropriate manner about the danger of nuclear weapons and the disarmament efforts of the United Nations and many civil society organizations. I found it really worthwhile to work with the children and introduce them to the importance of disarmament in a hands-on way, in the hope that they will remember it as they grow up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mary Kate and Isa, for the great presentation. I especially love the DIY for disarmament. It's such a great term. Okay, so the last presentation will be given by Ms. Ayane Murakami and Ms. Nao Suzuki from Nagasaki Youth Delegation. Ayane and Nao, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hi everyone. We are the 9th Nagasaki Youth Delegation. I'm Ayane.
And I'm Nao.
We appreciate you inviting us. We are very honored to be here. Next slide, please. Thank you. I will explain the details about us. The Nagasaki Youth Delegation is a human resource development project organized by the PCU Nagasaki Council for Nuclear Weapons Abolition, which consists of Nagasaki Prefecture, Nagasaki City, and Nagasaki University. Next slide, please. The Nagasaki Youth Delegation was established in 2013, and since then, about 80 million college and graduate students have been trained and acquired touch of real politics in the world through study sessions, meetings, participation to international conferences, peace education, and other events organized by the members. Now, many former members are working as journalists, teachers, NGO staff, or majoring nuclear disarmament in graduate schools. Next slide, please. We had a series of study sessions on the international security situation, nuclear disarmament, and NPT. We invited many professors, diplomats, journalists, activists, and UN staff. We also had field trips to learn about the tragedy of Nagasaki and Hiroshima, including meeting with Hibakusha. We also spent a lot of time and efforts to design and formulate our presentation to be conducted in the UN as a side event of the NPT Review Conference. We are looking forward to meeting with youth from other states as well as diplomats, activists, and UN staff to share our experiences and message from Nagasaki and learn from them at the same time. In addition, we visited a Japanese school there to have a peace education session.
However, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the NPT Review Conference was postponed and we had to cancel our visit to New York, so that we had to change all of our programs. Even though we had to give up our activities in New York, it did not mean that we had to give up our task as well. Next slide, please. We decided to present our messages from Nagasaki on the web instead. We organized our online presentation titled, "All We Need is Abolishing Nuclear Weapons for Our Future," in which we presented our messages and also hold workshops. Around 40 people, both in Japan and from abroad, participated in our online event, and then we received many comments and encouragement. We also participated in many other online events like today, as we succeeded in expanding our network for nuclear weapons abolition by utilizing the web. In a sense, the COVID-19 gave us a new opportunity to share our activities with people around the world on the web. Also, we will utilize various social networks to disseminate our messages to share our desire for a world without nuclear weapons, particularly with our fellow young people in Japan who may not have much opportunity to think and talk about nuclear disarmament. We believe that it is crucial that the next generations of Japan, as the only country with a tragic experience of nuclear attack, will inherit the messages of Hibakusha and keep talking about peace. Our goal is to make all young people in Japan think in the program of nuclear weapons and peace as our own program. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Nao. Thank you very much, Ayane. So actually, thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for the excellent presentation. So it's really, really impressive. Now I'm actually supposed to, now we are going to move on to the Q&A session. And then, I am supposed to read out some of the questions we receive in our chat box, but as you can see, unfortunately, we have not received any questions. Oh, actually, I got one. Let me just see. Oh, that was kind of long question. Okay, let me just read out. This is a question. I don't know. I haven't had time to read through this. So I don't know whether this is a question or comment. But let me just start reading. I'm sending you warmest greetings from Hanover, Germany. Hanover is a vice president and the executive city of Mayor for Peace. And it's our concern to further develop peace activities with young people. I have followed with great interest the presentations, and I'm very impressed about your commitment and the diversity of your initiatives. Therefore, I would appreciate your views on how to engage successfully with the younger generations and wake their interest in peace activities. Thank you for the valuable ideas and the suggestions, which I will take away for the Mayor for Peace cities in Germany. Thomas Herman, Deputy Mayor. Thank you very much, Mr. Herman. Thank you. So I think the questions is like, how it's like a general question to any of the presenter can answer. How you can kind of raise the awareness, encourage the interest to the younger, or you guys are already young generations, but you still have, maybe you can take up some roles and you have some responsibility to convey to the next generations, maybe the people younger than you. So if you have any good ideas, something you are thinking, or maybe you have already done, you can share with everyone. Okay, anyone?
I think this one is for Isa, no?
Okay.
You're coming over? Not to put you on the spot.
Oh, sorry, I haven't seen it. Isa, did you raise your hand? Sorry, I'm not.
Sorry, I think it's just because the person asking the question is from my hometown.
Oh,
so I think where the connection was.
Okay.
Yeah, but
yeah, Isa, you can make a short comment, or anyone else can do too. So
yeah, I can just quickly go first,
okay.
And then somebody else can take the floor. So what I was just thinking is that I think it's helpful to make really clear to young people what exactly they can get out of a specific activity. I think it's very easy to label something a peace activity and then not really make clear how it's going to be conducted and what the value, like the immediate value to a young person participating is. And so that's kind of what my thinking process was with the DIY activities. So I knew I wanted to target people who were into DIY specifically, and then maybe had a side interest in peace. Maybe they had heard about nuclear disarmament before, maybe they had never heard about it before. But to make it kind of primarily about DIY, something that they love, that the participants really enjoy, and then try to kind of have this as an access point for the disarmament topic as well. Yeah, thank you.
Great, Isa, thank you. Anyone else has anything to share? Any comments?
I think I can add just from
Okay, go ahead.
From a youth engagement perspective, and Isa just said it so well, but from experience, I guess. But when engaging with young people, the most important thing is to not create a program and then invite the young people to join, but to invite them to be part of the process of creating the program and for it to be mutually beneficial. So, and Isa kind of mentioned this perfectly in a way where young people will gain knowledge, but also gain skills and tools. Obviously, they'll be offering a lot of that, but for them to walk away with some benefit as well as the good that they do naturally in the work that they offer.
Okay, Taka, thank you very much. That's great. Okay, since we do not have much time, so let's move on. I got some questions from the who watching the Zoom. Okay, let me just read out one. Okay, this is a question addressing to Alejandra. Okay, let me just read out. Thank you for your presentation, Alejandra. You talked about your lobby activities with the government about the Netherlands joining the treaty. I was wondering if you could expand on the specific role of the youth in that. And are your activities in this field focused on the working with the government alone or through raising awareness for the public? Okay, that's the end of it. Okay,
sure.
Alejandra, please.
Yes, thank you. And thank you very much for that question. So just to start off on the question regarding the role of the youth, at this point, most of our most of the people in the Netherlands supporting the actions we undertake are from a different generation. So this is also why I'm very interested and interested in listening along to what the other participants are saying about their ways of attracting more involvement from youth. But I can't say about our advocacy activities in relation to the Netherlands joining the treaty. What we have done in 2015 is that we collected signatures as part of a citizens initiative, which requires a minimum of 40,000 signatures. So we collected that, which actually required the Dutch government to hold a debate in Parliament about a national ban on nuclear weapons. And this eventually resulted in what I mentioned in my presentation, in the Netherlands being the only NATO country that joined negotiations. So it was a very important first step. So that was one activity. We also we are also in contact with political parties. And so we also try to raise it there directly with parliamentarians and with the government. At this point, the Netherlands had elections in March and have until now not yet formed a government. So there's coalition talks are still ongoing. So this places some difficulties on that lobby work, but it's something that we are planning to continue. And just to add, on the other hand, we are also trying to raise more public awareness, and also through public pressure on the one hand, and through also creating some national foundation coming from local politicians. So on the one hand, there's public pressure. We do opinion polls in the Netherlands, which show that I think it's more than 2/3 of the population supports the nuclear ban treaty, or joining the nuclear ban treaty. So that's the public pressure part. On the other hand, there's the ICANN Cities appeal that I think many of you have heard of, where basically cities or municipalities worldwide speak out against nuclear weapons and encourage their governments, or encourage the country to join the nuclear ban treaty. So that's basically the local political parties encouraging the governments to join. So this is also another way of trying to build some pressure.
Okay,
I hope
great.
that answered the question.
yeah, you did. Thank you very much, Alejandra. Okay, so since due to the time limitation, maybe I can just take one very short question finally. Okay, I really apologize that I could not take all questions. We have more questions from the Zoom participant. So this question is addressing to the presenters from Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan. Thank you for your presentations. What do you consider to be your mission as a young generation in Nagasaki and Hiroshima? So I know there are several of you, so anyone can answer really quickly, shortly. I know it's really hard to answer in 1 minute, but you can do that. Okay, so now go ahead.
May I answer the question? Actually, we Nagasaki Youth Delegation conducted the questionnaire for the young generation in Japan, and almost all young generation in Japan, almost 60 to 90% of Japanese young generation is not interested in the peace or nuclear issues, so that we have to expand the network more to achieve that goal. We can connect to the social networks, or holding the online workshops like that, and we have to attracting the young generation, I think. Thank you. I don't know this is answer for this question, but
yeah, you
thank
did.
you.
Now. Thank you very much. Well, actually, I got the message from the organizers. Let me just read out. The President Matsui would like to make a comment and ask a question to No Nukes Tokyo. It's possible that they are not interested in it, nor the interest rate is low. Maybe they know the reality too much, that they cannot pursue the ideal. Do you think you can do something to have more supporters to think this way, so they will start thinking this way? They means, I think, the parliamentarians. So Suzuka or Yuta, are you able to answer the question now? Yuta?
Okay, Yuta, you want to answer this question?
Doesn't matter, either Suzuka or Yuta. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to answer this question. This is the very popular discussion between among this issue, right? Like, it's the peace is maintained because there is a nuclear weapons, the very big the power, so that the power balance is maintained in this international society. But the fact is that we should know how dangerous the nuclear powers are. So, like, having a conversation with that members or politicians, we aim to have a conversation about how dangerous the nuclear weapons are, not the power balance, but the impact that if nuclear weapons are used, that we might be injured, and like sharing those kind of thoughts and facts, I think we can go through this issue. And like the politicians I met, they also say that we need to share the stories of Hiroshima and Nagasaki to all over the world. And that is the first step to abolish nuclear weapons. So then let's do it. I always think that we need to take hands together and share this experience. And maybe this can be concerned to the one questions before that Nakamura-san asked, but yeah, that's the answer for me. Thank you for President Matsui-san for asking us questions.
Okay, Suzuka, thank you very much. So we now would like to move on to the discussion. We have about 10 minutes. So let me ask you, all presenters today, after listening to others' presentations and discussions and Q&A, perhaps you have come up with some like new ideas and so on, like new plans. Some of you already have talked about, in your presentation, like what you're going to do in the future, but maybe we can share some of the new innovative, creative ideas here, something like in your mind, So could you share, any of you, could you share what activities you are planning to do or something come up in your mind? So when you wish to speak, please let me know by clicking the raise hand button. Anything. Let's talk about the wish list and make it true. Anyone? Okay, Mary Kate, I saw you. So let me spot
yeah.
you. Okay,
I
go
think
ahead.
it's a great question. And I think one of the common themes that I've heard here is the importance of education and how do we get the youth engaged. And I think an idea we could have is showing how disarmament connects to other issues that young people are interested in. So climate change, how can we approach climate change through the lens of disarmament? And how can these two help each other advance our collective goals? So obviously nuclear weapons are horrific for the use against people, but also our planet, when we think about the environmental damage and the damage it will have on the ecosystems that we have as well. So that might be an avenue that we can take, having a workshop exploring how these two issues can connect with each other and how we can advance both of them to protect our planet and protect our people as well.
Okay, Mary Kate, thank you very much. Wonderful. Okay, I see two people raising hand. First of all, Jack, go ahead.
Yes, well, I think Mary Kate's idea was wonderful. Actually, on our website for Reverse the Trend, we have a community forum where we encourage collaboration from other youth leaders, from affected communities, from anyone interested in disarmament or climate change work. And on those community forums, we can build up discussions from disarmament and climate change to branching that into things like civil rights, into women's rights. So the conversation can really go anywhere. So if anyone's interested, anyone in the public, anyone here, we do invite collaboration on our community forums, and we think it's a very important method to sort of encourage a discussion between youth leaders.
Okay, great, Jack. Thank you very much. So the next is Suzuka. Go ahead.
Thank you. So next month, September 26th is the International Day for the Total Elimination of Nuclear Weapons, right? So I think that it is very, very important to think this issue not in August, but other months. So that we can think this issue is very important, not only in August. So we are planning to have a symposium for us to learn and think about what we are really trying to protect. Like this COVID-19 showed up that the weapons could not save us. And this so in that symposium, we are going to do with United Nations and the Foreign Affairs of Japan and the young generations like us, having the same discussion table and talk about the thing that we really want to protect. So we are going to talk also talking about the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. So if you have any time, I would like to share the information of this symposium. So let's have time to think and talk about the thing that we want to protect. Thank you.
Okay, Suzuka, thank you very much for sharing the information. And I totally agree with you. September 26th is the great day to raise people's awareness. I totally agree with you. Okay, the next I see Akida is raising a hand. Akida, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I think for this matter, our target is mostly a young generation. So like I said during my presentation, our team target to get attention from the young generation is through our social media platform. So I think to attract more young generation to know more about nuclear issue or nuclear disarmament is through the content in the social media. We need to make it attractive and is not a very hard thing to discuss. So they can understand well. The first point is to attract them first, and then they will interested to join or interested to know more about nuclear issues. So I think that's one of the idea, and maybe we can invite influencers that can promote nuclear issue or nuclear disarmament. Like my team had discussed before, we agree that influencers play a main role to promote through social media to our generation. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, Akita, thank you very much. Anyone else have would like to share any ideas or any comment? No? Anyone else? No? Okay. So we have a few more. Okay.
Excuse me, can I give my
opinion? Sure. Yuto, go ahead.
Thank you very much. First of all, everyone, thank you very much for your presentation. I was very inspired and I could learn a lot. And after I heard everyone's presentation, I thought we should keep in touch after this event, because actually one of the things which we are doing is to convey in Hiroshima's messages. And some groups, they said they are kind of like translating Hibakusha's messages. And actually, Hibakusha told me that they feel very sorry, or they really struggle when they try to convey their messages, because when they convey, they remind the tragedy. But us as a youth, I think we should convey to other people so that we can make the world more peaceful. So yeah, I think we should keep in touch so that we can make a peaceful world. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Yuto. That's a wonderful suggestion that you guys can make a great network. So if you make any advancement in your activities, please let the Mayor for Peace Secretariat, so that the Secretariat will share them to all the presenters today, because I do not want to make this event just only one simple event, you know what I mean? Because this is the start. This is not something like, we finish here. So we can, continue our discussion. We can create and further develop our network involving more and more people, so that, we can empower ourselves, that you guys can do many things together. Maybe each individual has small powers, small connections, small resource, but together you guys can do many things. You guys can even change the world, right? Okay, great. So, so if, let me just tell you, I would like to talk about one example of the development derived from the existing peace programs. These young people had been involved in peace activities in Hiroshima for years. When they are university students, they organized a concert using a piano, which had been exposed to the atomic bombings, as they aim to convey a message about atomic bomb survivors to younger generations. They are now watching this webinar on Zoom, so this isn't just one example, but it would be great if you could make connections with each other and collaborate for further activities. Okay, great. So now, yeah, it's almost time. Thank you very much. You guys are so great keeping time, yeah, all the organizers, really thanks to you for being so punctual. Okay, so finally, let me briefly review today's webinar. So all the presenters today are very impressive and indeed encouraging, As we all know, we are all living in a very difficult time due to the COVID-19 since the last year. So many of our daily activities have been restricted, right? And of course, including the peace activities. Many people say the peace activity is not our priority. There is more things to do. And then I know the number of the important international events have been canceled or postponed, including like NPT review conferences. And many opportunities for young people like you around the world to meet and discuss together in person have been lost. However, today's presentation and discussion remind me that young people like you have a power to turn difficulties into opportunities. All of you guys are using the power of imagination, power of innovation, for power of creativity, as well as the new digital tools, and creating new activities that have never been done before by anyone. So you guys also proved that young people can be more empowered by creating a network, just like we talked in a minute ago. The power of each individual may be small, as I said, but altogether you can do a lot. So finally, I have a message for those of the people who are listening to this webinar and people older than those young people. I say this also as a reminder to myself too, because indeed, young people are hope, but sometimes we, the adults, the older people, are so lazy. We always say, hey, young fellows, you keep up good work, do your best, but we do nothing, we just rely on them. I think that's not the good attitude. We are so irresponsible. So in order to create a better and a safer world, the one without the nuclear weapons, I think it's important that all generations should work together with young people, utilizing the power of the young people together. So we must do our best to create an environment and provide more resource, including a financial resource, to young people so that they can empower themselves. And we should create more opportunities for the education, just like Mary Kate said. Education is a key. So today we also talk about the importance of creating a network. I think in the coming years, I strongly believe that we need two networks. One is the horizontal networks among young people around the world. And the other one is a vertical network with all people, with all generations, all kinds of people. So everyone has a responsibility and role to play to change the world. And we have power. We need to realize a world free from nuclear weapons. Together, we can do it. Okay, that's all from me. And again, thank you very much for all participants, all presenters and organizers, and those people who are watching this webinar. Thank you very much and good luck, and we can change the world.